think we're clear. Sorry about that. I've been hiding from a skinwalker. I saw him earlier while I was recording another chapter, but I was dressed in my camouflage jacket, and for the last 10 years I've been mastering the technique of slowing your heartbeat until nothing. So basically you're dead, but you're alive. I've been mastering that for instances such as these, because skinwalkers can sense heartbeats, but they don't have very good eyesight. So I lucked out. Contrary to the last chapter, down on your luck, I actually was up on my luck in that circumstance. But I guess that brings me to today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is my poop shovel. I'm carrying it just in case I see the skinwalker. I think he's gone, but just in case. Anyway, today's sponsor is this my poop shovel. My poop shovel has been a family heirloom for generations and generations and generations. My great grandfather had it in World War II, and from what I am told, he stormed the beaches of Normandy with it. You know, after he would poop, he'd dig the shovel, dig it with the shovel. He'd put the poop in the ground, put it back. There would always be a little bit of poop left on the shovel, so it was building up like toxins. And he stormed the beaches of Normandy, slicing Nazi scum throats, die Nazi scum, and the shovel would go in their neck, and they would get like gangrene. I don't know. I don't know what the bacteria is that comes from poop, but I'm just going to say gangrene. So he would slice them Nazi scum, you know, just like that. And before it was his, many generations earlier, I don't know how many great grandfathers that is, lots, but my great whatever had this in the Civil War, and he used it in the same ways, except instead of Nazis, it was against Confederates. He would poop, get it on the shovel, dye Confederate scum, and yeah. So it's kind of like a tradition to use it against the bad guys. So I've been using my poop shovel for maybe a decade now, you know, and maybe one day I'll pass it on to my little niños, so that they can go out into the wilderness and poop with it. But also, just in case, you know, if any skinwalkers come around, die skinwalker scum, or Nazis or Confederates, either way, or redneck America. I don't give a shit. You don't want this in your throat because it's got poop on it. So keep that in mind for anyone who may not like me and want to come after me. I have this, and I'm not afraid to use it. It would have been a lot cooler if it stayed up. So as you can see, I don't have my chair today because I'm on high alert. Shout out to being on high alert when you are in the wilderness and you are in a defensive stance. Not wise to sit down. You know, skinwalkers can come from literally any direction. And the last thing you want is to be sitting down in a vulnerable position. You want to be in a not vulnerable position. That's why I have myself backed into a corner. Contrary to popular belief, backing yourself into a corner does not make you vulnerable. It makes you more frightening, because my shadow is cast against this rock and I can look bigger when they come, you know? So keep that in mind next time You need to assert dominance or be in a defensive position out in the wild. If you have a cave with the sun bearing down on you, back yourself into a corner, get a poop shovel, and assert dominance. All right. See what chapter we're on today. Chapter 22. Monkey's Maelstrom of Mind. I perch upon the mantle of which my cage once rest, free of mind. Only now can I smell the stench of the abyssal black, bubbling over the cauldron of morbid melancholy. Only now can I hear those shrill cries between each crackling flame, reaching from the pits of perdition. Only now can I see twilight as the conscious man, birthed unto the silence of solitude. The maelstrom of mind is a dreadful place for metamorphosis, reeling with knowledge yet plagued by darkness and bound by thought. Only now, it is in fear I feel draw near. I perch upon the mantle of which my cage once rest, free of mind. After giving Celine's my mother's trinkets, neither Thea nor myself would see her again for weeks on end. Whatever was being dealt with had been handled on her own. We were both supportive of this, knowing the difficulty in spreading one's wings, but missing her wasn't easy. I was jobless, broke, sad, alone, down and out, not to mention still struggling with the bottle. First course of action, acquire cheddar, quick. The last thing needed was to become a 4th Street local for all the wrong reasons. While scraping by on minimum wage in my early 20s, desperate for booze, blow, and blunts, I'd sold my blood plasma to clinics. So, in an equally abusive state of mind, I'd flick at the veins. Second course of action, wait in line with the smackheads jonesing for a fix. The initial visit always comes with an incentive perk, $double for first-time schmucks. But before you can donate, tests are required to become a suitable donor. After waiting several hours, a nurse approached with the good news. "Icarus McHale?" he'd ask. "That's me," I replied. "Sir, I'm afraid we cannot accept your plasma." "What are you getting at? I've done this plenty of times before." "It appears you have irregularly high blood pressure, an abnormal heart rate, and near non-existent levels of protein in your system. I must advise you see a doctor immediately." I left puzzled, wondering, how could all those junkies be healthier than me? It made no sense. My diet was limited to coffee, cigarettes, and frozen berries. Wasn't that what veganism consisted of? How could all those documentaries have led me so wrong? Third course of action. Head to the saloon in search of Betty's promising insight, the barmaid acquitted for murder. She wasn't there, so I ordered a double whiskey instead. As expressed, looking for answers at the bottom of an empty glass is a fool's errand. So, I raised it to my ear like a conch shell, hoping to hear the ocean, or God, whoever spoke their mind first. Alas, all to be heard were the soft whimpers of a boy. I left promptly, horrified. Fourth and final course of action, find a job. I was walking past a popular gay bar when it dawned on me. I'm a phenomenal flirt, very good looking, never vain, enjoy alcohol, am in no way struggling with sobriety, and have virtually no bartending experience. I'd make a fucking killing. Dressed to the nines, I walked through that slimy door with a foolproof plan. Lie to the point of sounding irresistible. A nefarious scheme to profit off a chiseled chin and charm. The joke began like this. A charlatan walks into a bar. "How you doing, sugar?" the barmaid asked. "Wonderfully, doll," I replied with a silver tongue. "Y'all hiring here?" "Matter of fact, we are. Tell me about yourself." "Name's Icarus. Am new in town and looking for opportunity. Been bartending back in California the last 8 years or so." "Fantastic. That's more than enough experience. What are your specialties?" "I'm a mixologist, primarily out of high-end lounges in coastal towns." "That's mighty impressive. You do fit the vibe." "There's no sense in waiting around then. Let's seal the deal. When do I start?" "I won't waste your talent here. We're opening a nightclub catered to younger crowds. It'll suit you better. I'll start you off as one of the lead bartenders. How's that sound, hun?" "Wonderful," I replied, now understanding the repercussions of this ruse. Any con is entirely reliant on confidence, but take one too far with ill preparation, having left the conned too enticed, and you've dug yourself a hole. Fake it till you make it only goes so far when cheating your way into a technical skill. I was a phony, being quick to rise as Reno's best, worst bartender. And there's the punchline. The club wasn't set to open for another week. With time to kill, a couple of old friends paid me a visit for some depravity. Misery loves company, so what better way is there to casually drink away your sorrows than with they who left me feeling less guilty in doing so alone? However, I'd only come to feel worse as things would take another strange, supernatural turn. We'd been kicking back in the jacuzzi at the GSR hotel, sipping on mojitos after having polished a fifth of Jameson in the parking lot. It was midday when a witchy woman approached with mist in her wake. Having been belligerently drunk, it's tough to remember her face, or if even real at all. She was older, and possibly the ghost of past, present, and future combined. We made eye contact, some ways out, and held it until she stepped in the water. Peering over to my buddies, she spoke softly. "Would you two give us some privacy? I need a word with your friend here." They both looked at me as if I'd run into trouble with cultist bookies and owed a debt to be collected in blood. They left with haste, obeying this sorceress who could hex them for life. She stood expressionless, reading me like a sad book before speaking. "Do you know what you are?" she asked, not awaiting my response. "You're one of the fallen angels." I immediately hurled up a double shot of Jameson with equal parts mint and swallowed it back. Wherever this conversation was headed, not an ounce of liquor could be spared. "Beg your pardon?" I replied, choking. "I mean you no offense," she said. "Lucifer was misunderstood, having wished to liberate humanity from the brutality of God, providing them with free will and the fruit of knowledge. You don't view this world as cut and dried, black or white, but feel to lie somewhere between, brought here to suffer a life of pain, one of reason, and have you not? You fear there's an evil lying within you, but it's only a misunderstanding of the dark. Embrace this, for you are to help guide others from their pain, out of the shadows and into the light." While I'm paraphrasing to the best of my ability, her words went unmistaken at the time, as if hot ironing a patch of biblical text over my chest. I tried to respond but was paralyzed with confusion. Our conversation appeared meant to be one-sided. Suddenly, all noise from the pool deck became muted, and she began describing my life as if she'd lived it to the T, then proceeded to break down the meaning of my tattoos, nailing each of them on the head. "The elephant engulfed in flames," she said. "That's your mother, a symbol of your deepest pain. The ink in that tattoo having been infused with her ashes. The arrow which cuts the snake, a prophecy gone unfulfilled, and a cause you came to resent. The moonhawk, a love with whom your soul is shared, who will help you understand the path. The withered rose, its two hearts fall as petals from the same flower, until in bloom, to cycle the eternal." These breakdowns of my existence continued. She never took a seat, nor broke eye contact. And out of the hundreds of people on the pool deck, not a single other person got in the tub to disturb us. It was as if being within a force field that separated an irrelevant reality. Until she stepped back out and life resumed. Silence faded, and the suppressed noise of people crashed over in a loud whoosh, leaving my head spinning. She turned back to meet my eyes before vanishing into whatever fucking portal brought her there. "You have a lot of work to do here," she said, "and it's about time you took it seriously." By then, I was a shriveled prune in total disbelief, my friends returning minutes after. "Y'all saw her, right?" I asked. "Yeah," one replied. "What the hell did she want?" "Wouldn't believe me if I told you. Besides, I need another drink. I never saw that voodoo enchantress, or her crystal ball tits, ever again." The club opened, and in refusing to heed the advice of a psychic who very well may have triggered my late-onset schizophrenia, I'd further spiral. Being a run-and-gun bartender for college kids looking to get shit-faced wasn't a favorable circumstance. The job fed into my obvious drinking problem, and the neglect to face my other problems problem. After having several drinks on shift, each night ended with a flask of whiskey and an aimless walk. I insisted this habitual practice was out of necessity, one little to do with my mind being an existential wasteland. Hope for sleep took wearing myself out on the sad streets of a once beautiful city. The dazzling lights and whistles of big winners became lonely and hopeless. Everything felt sickening, my senses assaulted by pent-up grief which clawed from the pits of consumption. Where I'd once danced with my reflection in the shimmering glass of yellow sapphire, those mirrors no longer revealed a man in holy matrimony with himself, but the bottle in his hand. And when choosing the bottle, as the Irish say, It isn't a man who's taking the drink, but the drink that's taken the man. Alcohol's sole purpose is sedation, momentary relief from suffering, unwillingness, or what's wished forgotten. And in seeking apathy, we find purgatory. Aside from being on 2 feet, I was no different from the bum resting in the gutter. He'd snarl if approached, taking a defensively laid stance on all fours, being cautious not to meet his eyes. The gaze of inebriation stirs confrontation, having been in the domain of another dangerous drunk easily aroused. When the moon rises on that valley, those inviting streets are lit to become a roaring savanna. Animalistic and territorial. Tarp-wrapped carts and wafting fresh urine are clear indications to veer from predatorial dens. One mustn't poke the bear, sober or not. Reno's a town of little sleep for those in the entertainment industry, and being nocturnal takes a toll on the mind. A contributing factor to insomnia is alcohol, which I was under the wild impression was a remedy. Even on nights off, drinking myself into exhaustion became routine in hopes to find rest. But while alcohol may help put you to sleep, the real torture begins hours later when your brain wakes in a hyperactive state of fight or flight. Now being even more tired than before, your limbs go numb with pins and needles. Your eyes swell in pain, and if unable to cry, dry sobs of laughter ensue, insisting it's all a sick joke. Then, violence takes hold of the mind with wretched thoughts not felt as your own, things you'd never do, say, or even think in a rational state. A waking night terror of which all your worst and unavoidable fears, angers, insecurities, and doubts are brought to the surface at once. The mental anguish of prolonged insomnia is debilitating, like having a hot iron poker pressed firm against the frontal lobe. Pair that with over-intoxication, and you're in for a hallucinatory ride forced against your will. One night I woke after my first hour of sleep in 2 days, having stood to distract myself from those terrors, only to slam against the wall in a drunken stupor. There was a crash sounding of fine china or pottery shattering, and while it was too dark to see what it had been, the obnoxious roar which followed was loud and clear. "Thanks, Dick," it wailed. "Who goes there?" I yelled. "Show yourself." "Who I am is a loaded question," he replied. "You should see yourself. What is it that has whoever you are so worked up over me? Take a look in that dresser mirror, Bubs. You're a goddamn train wreck." I flipped on the light switch, and while there was no one else in the room, he'd been correct. My ribcage protruded in a way that each bone cast a shadow. I was dripping wet. Dark amber fluids seeped from the coarse pores of a sun-dried tomato, reeking of ethanol. My face was pale with ghoulish cheekbones, and each sinking eye was bloodshot. It was like seeing the fetal alcohol syndrome, bastard birthchild of a coked-out gargoyle and wing-clipped pterodactyl. "Let me spell this out for you," he spoke again. Pathetic. Pathetic. "Maybe," I said, "but you're just a voice in my head, a bad projection at best." "A bad projection? Would a good one prove otherwise? Why don't you say that to my face? Down here, you big idiot." I looked to the floor and found what was shattered, in turn, feeling to have shattered along with him. Being made of porcelain is a fragile lifestyle and accidents are bound to happen. And while I'd broken him many times before, he'd never spoken up about it, this being very out of character. Monkey laid in pieces, and I dropped to my knees in pieces before him. "Have I lost it, Monkey?" I asked in despair. "Long ago," he replied. "Somewhere in the opening chapter, no doubt." "Of what story?" "This one." "Who's telling it?" "You." "But I haven't finished living it," I said. "How could I be telling it?" "Because, of course," he replied, "time is relative, and relatively irrelevant." None of this is making any sense. Has it ever? Any sense is just as nonsensible as sensible. If I may, why do you yell at me? "I don't enjoy yelling at you, Monkey, and it's never because I'm disappointed in you, but disappointed in me for letting us become this." "Then do pray tell. Why is it you're always breaking me?" "Clumsiness, I suppose. Or perhaps—" "Shut your goddamn dick holster," he yelled, cutting me off. "You have a very serious lack of stability. Life's all about balance. Light and dark, good and bad, right and wrong. Your polarities are all out of whack, Jack. Stop leaning so far towards what is, while bending over backwards for what isn't. Real and unreal are but one and the same, you big lame. Why torment yourself over concepts of truth, when all truths are but half-truths? There are two sides to every coin, and where your pendulum swings right, so shall it left." My pendulum is drunk as fuck. And you're drunk as a disgrace. We only find ourselves broken so that we may rebuild ourselves stronger. And where parts of us die, we find rebirth. Much like me, you're fragile, practically made of porcelain, always broken. What are you going to do about that? I don't want to break anymore, I whimpered. Then listen up, you sad bitch, because I've got a goddamn bone to pick with you. You look like shit, act like shit, and feel like shit. The fuck happened? Fell off your horse? Got depressed? Own that shit. Kick rocks and get the fuck back on it. Dare I ask, monkey, why now do you voice your mind? It isn't me who's chosen here, but you. My words can only be heard when your heart becomes both willing and able to listen. The time's long drawn near for lips to ear. As above, a kindred love. So below, you've come to know. But what does it all mean, monkey? I haven't a clue. You're the one humoring philosophical ideology with a porcelain figurine. But I'd wager the hours a ride for you to get your fucking priorities straight. He was right, and I'd reaped what was sown. At times it takes being brought to rubble to realize we aren't who we thought to be. But it's upon broken ground that new foundations are laid, and purpose is discovered. Monkey tends to fall apart during states of monumental transition for me, and I'm only able to patch him back up once emerged anew. He'd been a vital part of my life far before finding him hitchhiking off Highway 395. The first, and one of the only toys I had growing up, was a sock version of him given by my mother. She'd play and laugh with us, calling me her little monkey boy. He was my best and only friend, never having been without him. Then one day that sinister man who raised me ripped him apart before my eyes. He took away my best friend, and a part of me went with him. With Monkey's shattered pieces in each hand, I couldn't help but think back to when Celine asked if I was still speaking to him, having needed to know that I was still myself. The depth of that question, the care in her tone, belief in me, and what I stood as, now ruminated with an unbeknownst power. If only Celine could have seen us that night, she'd have been so proud of the mental ass-whooping he delivered, the one I desperately needed. I repaired him with hot glue gun surgery the following evening, being sure to reiterate his wisdom while under the needle. Thank you so very much, monkey, I said, for showing me the patheticness behind pain hasn't entirely eclipsed this boy's soul. Say, do you remember the book I used to read when you were just a little chimp? The one about the king who forgot he was a king? Neither do I. It's good to have you back, you son of a bitch. I tucked him into bed before leaving for work, having read from the pages of a new, yet familiar story, one filled with heroism, adventure, and love. And so it is said, I'd conclude. The banana bandits rode off into the sunset, waiting to catch that next banana train. I'm not a limber guy, moving around like this. When I've been sitting for 2 weeks, not easy. Stretch, shout out stretching, probably should be one of the sponsors, but I don't like it. So I'm not going to do it, Waste of time, in my opinion. Why would I stretch when I can just not? Probably not the healthiest advice to give, but if you like stretching, by all means, stretch away. You like yoga? By all means, yoga away. Not for me. I like sitting and I like rolling cigarettes. Those are like two of my biggest things. And walking. Walking, sitting, and rolling cigarettes. There's others, but those are like in my top 5. Laying on the dirt in the desert is also up there. Discovering the lost city of Atlantis, pretty high on the list, but I guess that would be like / snorkeling. Hunting chupacabra, not skinwalker. I don't fuck with hunting skinwalker. I just defend myself from skinwalker, but I'll hunt chupacabra. And there I have seen a couple out here from a distance, and that's why I have 5 sticks of dynamite on me. I don't want to have to use them, but I always have 5 sticks of dynamite. just in case. So anyway, yeah, that was today's chapter. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm really excited about the next one. Come on back. It's getting juicy, you know? There's lots to love about the stars above. Clip it. Freeze. This is my new profile picture. Just kidding. I don't care.